My name is Emily Harper. I'm 32. The day my brother was supposed to walk down the aisle should have been pure magic for our family. Instead, it turned into the moment I found my husband pressed against my soon-to-be sister-in-law in a shadowy corner of the venue, hands roaming, voices low, laughing about how completely clueless I was. When I stumbled back to my dad with mascara running rivers down my cheeks, he didn't explode. He didn't curse. He just gave me the tiniest smirk, leaned in, and murmured, "Easy, sweetheart. The real show hasn't started yet." What happened after that was the coldest, most perfectly orchestrated takedown I've ever seen in my life. If you want to watch my father dismantle two professional liars in front of 300 stunned guests, hit that like button right now. Subscribe, turn notifications on, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Trust me, you're not ready for what's coming. It was a flawless Saturday afternoon in Miami. Sunlight poured through the massive windows of the Ocean Grand Ballroom, one of the most exclusive spots on the beachfront. White peonies and lilies spilled over every table. Crystal dripped from the ceilings like frozen starlight. A jazz trio drifted through the room while champagne fizzed and laughter echoed. Everything looked straight out of a dream. Too perfect, really. That day belonged to my older brother, Nathan. 35, my lifelong shield, the one person who always had my back. He was marrying Claire, 28, soft-spoken, with long chestnut waves and the kind of gentle smile that made you feel instantly safe. During their whole engagement she'd been nothing but kind to me, asking about my marriage, my job, treating me like the little sister she never had. I actually thought I was finally getting the sister I'd always wanted. Our little family felt whole. My husband, Ryan, was right by my side that morning, arm loosely around me like always. Ryan Carter, 34, successful architect, tall, unfairly good-looking, with steel gray eyes that still made my stomach flip after 7 years together. 6 of those years married. Everyone called us couple goals. He was thoughtful, affectionate, the guy who remembered tiny anniversaries and carried me over puddles when it rained. At least, that's who I thought he was. My dad, James Harper, 62, self-made real estate titan, stood off to the side near the bar, quietly taking it all in with that piercing stare of his. He'd built everything we had from nothing after Mom passed when I was 11. Raised Nathan and me solo. Never remarried. Poured his whole life into us and the empire. He had this way of staying 3 moves ahead of everyone, always calm, always reading the room. That morning he seemed extra quiet, eyes flicking between Claire and Ryan more than usual, but I chalked it up to wedding day emotions. I was busy helping with final touches, straightening centerpieces, double-checking place cards, in my blush pink bridesmaid gown, curls pinned perfectly, feeling like a princess. I had a husband who adored me, a brother marrying the sweetest woman, and a father who'd given us the world. Life finally felt complete. Looking back, I was painfully blind. The ceremony was set for 4 p.m. Around 3:30 I realized I hadn't seen Ryan in a while. I wanted one of those sweet family photos, me, Nathan, and Ryan, before everything officially started. I scanned the ballroom. No sign of him. Checked the bar, the lobby, even peeked down the hallway to the restrooms. Nothing. I figured he'd slipped outside for air or a work call. Architecture emergencies never slept, and I'd long ago accepted that about him. So I headed toward the garden terrace that overlooked the water. As I stepped closer, I heard muffled voices, then a light, familiar laugh. That laugh. The exact same one Claire used whenever Nathan teased her. My pulse kicked up. Something felt off. Every instinct screamed at me to turn around, but my feet wouldn't listen. The terrace was screened off with tall trellises wrapped in jasmine, creating little private pockets. I rounded one of them, and there they were. My husband, the man who'd kissed me goodbye that morning, who'd told me I looked beautiful, had Claire pinned against the wall, fingers twisted in her hair, mouth on hers like he was starving. Her pristine wedding gown was bunched at the thighs. This wasn't some drunken mistake. This was practiced. This was real. The world tilted. My lungs forgot how to work. I gripped the wall so I wouldn't fall. Then I heard them. Claire pulled back just enough to whisper, breathy and teasing, we're cutting it way too close, babe. Ryan actually chuckled, a dark, smug sound I'd never heard from him. What am I supposed to be afraid of? Emily hasn't noticed a thing in years. And Nathan, poor guy, still thinks you hung the moon. We're golden. Emily. He said my name like I was a punchline. Claire traced a finger down his tie. After today everything changes. Once we're locked in, the trusts, the accounts, it's all ours. Just a little longer. Ryan's voice dropped. We've been setting this up for over a year. The second that wedding money hits, we vanish. I only put a ring on Emily to get inside the family finances anyway. She made it easy. Easy. 6 years of breakfasts in bed, of crying on his shoulder, of believing every, I love you, and I'd just been the easiest way in. Claire's tone shifted, nervous. What if someone figures it out before we clean them out? Ryan scoffed. Please. We've pulled this exact play before. Rich families are all the same, trusting, desperate to be loved. By the time they wake up, we're on a beach in a country with no extradition. Before. They've done this before. To other people, other families. This wasn't a fling. This was their job. I don't know how long I stood there. Seconds. Minutes. The ocean disappeared. The music vanished. All I could hear was blood roaring in my ears. Tears blurred everything, but I couldn't move, couldn't scream. I was paralyzed. Finally my body remembered how to function. I backed away silently, turned, and somehow made it inside without collapsing. Makeup destroyed, shaking, I crashed straight into someone. Strong hands caught me. I looked up through wet lashes. Dad. His face registered zero shock. Only tight-jawed calm. Emily, he said softly, steering me out of the crowd. Tell me. The words tumbled out between sobs. Ryan and Claire, on the terrace, they're together. They've been planning this whole time to rob us. Everything's fake, Dad. Everything. I waited for the explosion. For him to march out there and drag them apart in front of everyone. But he didn't. His eyes just hardened, and then, I'll never forget it, the corner of his mouth lifted. He winked. Actually winked. Then he leaned in so only I could hear. Take a breath, baby girl. The real show's about to start. I must have looked at him like he'd grown a second head. My entire world had just detonated in real time. My marriage was a scam, my brother was minutes from tying himself to a criminal, and my dad was standing there winking like we were about to watch a fireworks show. Dad, what are you talking about? Not here, he cut in, voice low, firm. Walk with me, now. He guided me through side corridors I didn't even know existed until we reached a small, wood-paneled meeting room tucked behind the kitchens. He shut the door, turned the lock, and the click echoed like a gunshot in the silence. I was a mess, black streaks down my face, hands trembling so hard I had to clutch my arms to keep them still. Dad, Ryan and Claire are. I know exactly who and what they are, he said, calm as winter steel. I've known for 4 months. 4 months. The words hit me like a slap. I sank into the nearest chair. You knew, and you let this wedding happen. He moved to the window, hands clasped behind his back, staring out at the ocean like a general surveying a battlefield. 4 months ago I started noticing cracks. Claire asking detailed questions about offshore holdings, about succession plans, questions no normal fiancé would ever think to ask. Ryan suddenly knowing exactly which properties were unencumbered, which trusts were revocable. Little things. Too many little things. He turned to face me. I didn't just suspect, Emily. I hired the best private surveillance team money can buy. They've had eyes on those two since June. He slid his phone across the table. Swipe. Grainy photos. Ryan and Claire slipping out of a downtown hotel at 2 a.m. Swipe. Them kissing in an underground garage, her wedding ring finger very deliberately bare. Swipe. Time-stamped shots of them meeting the same unknown man in 3 different cities. My stomach flipped. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you stop it? Because this isn't some impulsive affair, he said. This is a machine. A professional, organized, repeat offender machine. Those two have real names. Ryan Cole and Claire Donovan. They're not even married to each other. They're half-siblings raised in the system. They've done this exact con at least 5 times that we've documented. He kept scrolling. Bank records. Shell companies. Victim files. Colorado. The Langford family, drained of $3 million, their son overdosed after Claire vanished. Texas. The Delgado family, lost $4.2 million, grandfather had a stroke when the accounts went to zero. Oregon, Nevada, Virginia, same pattern. One sibling seduces the heir, the other marries in for access, then they disappear with everything that isn't nailed down. I felt the room spin. 6 years of my life, gone. Every anniversary trip, every late night, I can't live without you, every promise, just lines delivered by a trained actor. Dad's voice softened, but only slightly. There's more. Your marriage license. Forged. Ryan Cole is legally married to a woman in Arizona right now. You were never his wife, Emily. You were his cover. The air left my lungs. I gripped the chair so hard my knuckles went white. Then why the wedding today? I managed. Why let Nathan walk into this? Dad's eyes turned glacier cold. Because if I'd shut it down 4 months ago, we'd have caught 2 pawns and the king would still be free. There's a handler behind them, someone who recruits broken kids, teaches them the playbook, and takes 40% of every score. I didn't want the foot soldiers. I wanted the entire operation. He leaned forward. I've been working with the FBI since July. Fake accounts, wired conversations, marked money, everything they think they're about to steal is bait. Agents are seated through the guest list right now. The second they cross the final line, we drop the net. In front of every cousin, business partner, and society columnist in South Florida. I just stared. You turned my brother's wedding into a federal sting. I turned it into a kill shot, he corrected. Nathan will hurt today, but he'll still have his name, his company, and his freedom tomorrow. I chose the lesser wound. Then his voice dropped, almost gentle. I need one thing from you, Em. Go back out there. Let them see you falling apart. Cry harder. Look lost. The more convinced they are that they've won, the bolder they'll get, and the cleaner the arrest. I laughed, bitter and broken. I'm not acting, Dad. I'm destroyed. I know. For the first time the armor cracked. Pain flashed across his face. I know, baby, and I'm sorry I couldn't shield you from this part. But I can damn well make sure they never touch another family again. I searched his eyes, really looked at the man who'd raised us alone, who'd built an empire out of grief and grit, and I saw something fierce and protective and ancient burning there. What do I have to do? I asked, voice steadier than I felt. Play the shattered wife for a few more hours. Then watch them lose everything they thought they were about to steal. He handed me a handkerchief, gently dabbed under my eyes, fixed what he could of the mascara carnage. There's my girl, he murmured. Stronger than they'll ever understand. We walked back into the glittering chaos together. The string quartet was warming up. Guests were finding their seats. Everything still looked like a fairy tale. Ryan spotted me immediately, all fake concern, jogging over in his perfect tux. Babe, I was worried. You okay? You look like you've been crying. The nerve. The absolute nerve. I forced my lip to tremble. Just, overwhelmed. Happy tears for Nathan. He pulled me against his chest, kissed my temple for the audience. You're too sweet, he whispered, like he meant it. I wanted to bite him. Instead I let him lead me to the front row, his hand possessive on my knee the entire time. Dad sat on my other side, stone-faced, watching the doors like a hawk. The quartet shifted into the processional. The back doors opened. Claire glided in, radiant in white, bouquet of white peonies trembling just enough to look emotional. She reached Nathan, took his hands, smiled up at him like he was her whole world. My brother beamed back, completely oblivious. The officiant began. Dearly beloved. I sat there clutching Ryan's hand while my heart screamed, counting down the seconds until the entire lie came crashing down in flames. And somewhere in the front row, my father's eyes never left the 2 predators at the altar. He was waiting for his cue. So was I. The officiant's voice floated over the crowd, warm and cheerful. If anyone here has reason why these 2 should not be joined, speak now or forever hold your peace. I stopped breathing. For one heartbeat the ballroom was silent except for the soft rustle of silk and the distant crash of waves outside. Then the double doors at the back slammed open so hard they bounced off the walls. A middle-aged couple stormed in, faces twisted with fury and grief. The woman was sobbing, pointing straight at Claire with a trembling finger. "That's her," she screamed. "That monster ruined my son." Gasps rippled outward like a shockwave. Phones came up. Claire went ghost white. Nathan instinctively stepped in front of her, confused, protective. "Everybody calm down." The man kept marching down the aisle, voice cracking with rage. "Thomas and Laura Langford. 2 years ago that woman, wearing a different name, different hair, married our only boy. Took $3 million and vanished. He tried to hang himself the night she left. He's still in therapy because of her." Security moved to intercept, but Dad raised one finger from his seat. They froze. This was choreographed. The woman collapsed to her knees halfway down the aisle. "Please, just look at me. Tell me you didn't know." Claire's perfect mask cracked. Tears, real ones this time, started falling, but her eyes were darting for exits. Nathan turned to her, voice breaking. "Claire, tell them they're wrong." She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. That's when Dad stood. He walked to the front like he owned the building, because he basically did, took the microphone from the stunned officiant, and the room fell dead silent. "Everyone stay seated," he said, voice smooth as steel. "The ceremony is paused. Some overdue introductions are required." He looked straight at Claire. Ice in his eyes. Claire Donovan, also known as Claire Reeves, Natasha Cole, and 4 other identities. "You're a career fraud. And you," he swung the microphone toward Ryan. "Ryan Cole, also known as Ryan Carter, are her partner in every sense. Half-siblings. Professional thieves. And today your run ends." Ryan shot to his feet. "This is absurd. Robert, I'm family." "No," Dad said quietly. "You're a parasite." He nodded toward the tech booth. The massive screens flanking the altar flickered from romantic slideshows to crystal-clear security footage. There they were, Ryan and Claire on the terrace 30 minutes ago, bodies pressed together, voices crystal clear over the speakers. "Emily hasn't noticed a thing in years. Nathan still thinks you hung the moon. Once we're locked in, the trusts, the accounts, it's all ours. I only put a ring on Emily to get inside the family finances." Every word boomed through the ballroom. 300 guests heard my husband call me an easy mark. Heard them laugh about my brother. Heard them plan to disappear with everything we owned. I watched the video with the rest of them, letting the knife twist again so I'd never forget why I was done being weak. Nathan looked like someone had punched a hole straight through his chest. He stared at Claire, whispering, "Was any of it real?" Her tears stopped like someone flipped a switch. The sweet girl vanished. A cold, venomous stranger took her place. "Real," she spat. "Grow up. This was never about feelings. It was about money. That's all any of you ever were." The crowd erupted, shouts, sobs, chairs scraping. Dad raised a hand and silence fell again. "What you're watching," he continued, "is the final chapter of a crime ring that has stolen over $18 million and destroyed at least 6 families we know of. Bank records, wire transfers, victim statements, everything is in federal hands." Ryan tried to bolt. Nathan, heartbroken or not, still had 50 pounds of muscle on him. He grabbed Ryan by the lapels and slammed him against the altar railing. "You used my sister," Nathan growled, voice raw. 6 years of lies. Ryan twisted, panic in his eyes, and suddenly there was a gun in his hand. Screams tore through the room. People dove under tables. He leveled it at my father. "Back off. Everyone back off or I swear." Dad didn't flinch. He smiled. Actually smiled. "Go ahead," he said softly. In one heartbeat, 12 guests stood up around the room, men in tuxes, women in gowns, and drew FBI badges and service weapons. "FBI, drop it. Drop it now." Ryan's face crumpled as agents swarmed him. The gun hit the marble floor. He was face down and cuffed before the echo died. Claire tried to run in her wedding dress, heels clacking, veil flying. A female agent tackled her at the altar steps. White silk tore. Handcuffs clicked. The lead agent, a tall woman with zero patience, started reading rights while guests filmed on their phones. Claire Donovan, Ryan Cole, you are under arrest for wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, conspiracy, interstate transportation of stolen property. Ryan looked at me one last time as they dragged him past. No remorse. Just pure, animal hatred. Claire, mascara streaking like war paint, hissed as they pulled her by me, you should have just let us take it. Now you all lose. I met her eyes and answered loud enough for the microphones to catch. No, Claire, you lose. The ballroom was pandemonium, crying, shouting, people hugging, others running for the doors. The most photographed wedding disaster in Florida history, already trending worldwide. Nathan sank into the front pew, head in his hands. I dropped beside him and held my big brother while he shattered. Dad stood over the chaos like a conductor who'd just finished his masterpiece. An agent approached him. Mr. Harper, we've also got their third accomplice posing as catering. Full sweep complete. Dad only nodded. He'd known that too. As they hauled Ryan and Claire out in zip ties and ruined finery, I realized the wink from earlier wasn't cruelty. It was a promise. The real show had just begun, and it was glorious. The ballroom emptied like a theater after the final curtain, except nobody clapped. They just stumbled out in shock, clutching each other, already texting the footage to everyone they knew. By nightfall the headlines were screaming, Miami wedding turns into federal takedown, con artist couple arrested at altar. I didn't go home, couldn't face the house Ryan and I had filled with fake memories. Instead I sat on the beach until sunrise, shoes in my hand, letting the waves try to wash the last 6 years off my skin. When I finally walked through my front door, everything looked poisoned. The couch we picked out together. The coffee mugs that said, his, and, hers. The framed photo from our courthouse wedding. I stood in the bedroom and felt the rage rise like a tide. Then I let it out. I tore his clothes from the hangers, shredded suits that cost more than most people make in a month. I smashed every gift he'd ever given me. I screamed until my voice gave out and the neighbors probably called the police. When there was nothing left to break, I slid down the wall and sat in the wreckage until Dad found me hours later. He didn't speak, just sat on the floor beside me, wrapped an arm around my shoulders, and let me cry into his shirt like I was 10 years old again. Eventually I asked the question that had been clawing at me. How did you know to look in the first place? He was quiet so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he told me about a woman named Catherine Reed. Before your mom, he said, voice rough, I was married for 18 months. Catherine was brilliant, funny, everything I thought I wanted. Then one night her car went off a cliff road. Brakes failed. Police called it an accident. His fists clenched. She'd been about to blow the whistle on a real estate investment scam, fake identities, forged deeds, millions vanishing. The man running it disappeared the same week. Name was Marcus Reed. I spent 30 years chasing ghosts, trying to prove he killed her. I stared at him, pieces clicking together. When Claire and Ryan started using the exact same playbook, same fake backstory beats, same grooming tactics, I knew they came from the same school. Reed built a pipeline, damaged kids, teach them to seduce, marry, rob, vanish. Takes half the take. Ryan and Claire were two of his best graduates. Dad looked older than I'd ever seen him. I couldn't save Catherine. I damn well wasn't losing my children to the same machine. That night he told me everything. The decades of quiet investigating, the private fund he kept for victims, the nights he couldn't sleep because he saw Catherine's face in every new case file. Naming Nathan after the man who killed her wasn't cruelty, it was a reminder never to let his guard down. A week later the FBI sat us in a conference room and opened 6 thick folders. Langford, Delgado, Chen, Ramirez, Brooks, Harper, each one a family gutted by the same 2 faces wearing different names. A young man with scarred wrists who'd tried to end it when, Claire, disappeared. An elderly couple who lost their home. A father who hadn't spoken to his daughter since she defended Ryan in court. They wanted to meet us. So we did. 12 strangers in a circle who already knew the shape of each other's nightmares. We cried, we raged, we laughed at the absurd little details we all remembered the same way. For the first time since the terrace, I breathed without pain. We kept meeting. Every Thursday night we sat in folding chairs and admitted the ugly truths. That we still sometimes miss them, that we checked locks 3 times, that we googled our new dates like stalkers. Healing wasn't pretty, but it was ours. Out of those meetings came the Open Eyes Project, a nonprofit that teaches people how to spot long-term predators, funds therapy for victims, and fights for stronger laws. Every dollar from selling my married house went into it. Nathan threw himself into the company, triple background checks on every vendor, every partner. He turned paranoia into policy. 8 months later he met Lena, a quiet, steady counselor who never flinched when he asked for her full credit report on date 3. They married in a backyard with 30 guests and a metal detector at the gate. Dad officiated and cried through the whole thing. The trial was brutal and beautiful. I took the stand and looked Ryan in the eye while I told the world how thoroughly he'd played me. He stared back like he was still calculating angles. When his lawyer tried to paint me as gullible, I smiled. Yes, I believed him. That's what professionals count on. That's why they're dangerous. That's why they belong in cages. Guilty on every count. Ryan, 23 years. Claire, 19. Their caterer, brother, 15. When the sentence came down, the victims in the gallery held each other and sobbed with relief. As they led Claire away, she paused beside me. For 1 second the mask slipped and I saw something raw underneath. In another life, she whispered, I could have been your friend. I didn't blink. In another life you could have chosen not to destroy people. Your move. That was the last time I ever saw her. 2 years later I stood on a TEDx stage and told 10,000 people, the con artist wore my engagement ring. The video hit 20 million views. Messages poured in from strangers who'd lived their own versions. Open Eyes went national. Congress called. I testified. They passed the Financial Predator Accountability Act, tougher penalties, better victim restitution. Dad sat in the balcony and didn't bother hiding the tears. I wrote the book, One Wink from Justice. It hit the bestseller list. Every cent went to the foundation and to the families Ryan and Claire had broken. And somewhere in all of that, I started to live again. His name is Matt Brennan, one of the undercover agents from the wedding. We kept crossing paths at hearings, at support groups, at fundraisers. He never pushed, never assumed. One day he handed me a coffee and said, full background packets on the passenger seat of my car if you want it. No expiration date. I laughed for the first time in months. Coffee became dinners. Dinners became 2 a.m. talks about fear and trust and starting over. When he proposed, it was on my couch in sweatpants. I'm not perfect, but I'm real. Marry me anyway. I said yes. Nathan and Lena's son was born first, little James, named after Dad. Matt and I married on a quiet beach with 20 people and 0 floral arches. Dad walked me down the aisle, stopped halfway, and winked. Same wink. Different meaning. You made it, kid. This one's real. Asterisk. 3 years after the wedding that wasn't, I run a foundation that's helped over 4,000 survivors. Nathan's company is bigger than ever, built on integrity instead of inheritance. Dad finally slept through the night when the FBI raided a compound in Uruguay and dragged Marcus Reed out in handcuffs, the man who murdered Catherine and trained generations of predators. Trial starts next spring. Ryan rots in federal prison, still claiming he was framed. Nobody buys the book he wrote from his cell. Claire apparently teaches yoga now and leads trauma groups for inmates. Maybe she means it. Probably not. Doesn't matter. She's where she can't hurt anyone else. People ask if I've forgiven them. No, but I don't need to. Forgiveness isn't the price of peace. Boundaries are. Truth is. Choosing who gets to write the next chapter of your life is. They stole years. They stole trust. They stole the version of me who believed love was effortless. They did not steal my future. That belongs to Matt, to my nephew's sticky fingers, to Thursday night meetings where new survivors realize they're not crazy, to every person who watches this and decides their predator doesn't get tomorrow too. Dad's wink that day wasn't just about handcuffs and headlines. It was about what comes after the fall. It was about refusing to let monsters have the last word. It was about turning their crime scene into our victory parade. And we did. So if you're out there hurting, questioning your own judgment, replaying every moment you should have seen, hear me. You didn't miss the signs. They hid them on purpose. That's what predators do. But you're still here. That's what survivors do. We take the ashes, we build something fireproof, and we live louder than they ever stole. That's the real show. And the curtains are just going up. Thank you for listening. If this hit home, like, subscribe, share your city in the comments. You're not alone. The Open Eyes Project is in the description. Free resources, support groups, people who get it. The con artists took our past. They don't get our future. That's ours now.